Welcome to the Voice of MPE, the official podcast of Merchant Payments Ecosystem, the European #1 merchant payments conference and community. This podcast brings you exclusive interviews and discussions with top leaders and professionals from the entire payment world. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast, Voice of MPE. For more information, visit www.merchantpaymentsecosystem.com.
Welcome to the Voice of MPE podcast 2025, focused on tokenization and security. I'm Candice Pressinger, representing US Bank L1 Merchant Payment Services, and I have here two leading experts who will now introduce themselves.
Hi, Candice. Great to be here. I'm Chirag. I'm the Director of Account Management for Northern Europe at Checkout.com. I'm responsible for helping merchants thrive in the digital economy.
And hi, Candice, Chirag. I'm Adam Davies. I am Fortra's Payment Partnerships Lead for EMEA and APAC. I focus on bringing our payment solutions to market.
And great to have you both here today. And I'm sure that we're going to cover a lot of interesting content for our listeners. So let's start with the basics. Tokenization has been around for a fair while, and its role in payment security is evolving rapidly. For our audience at MPE, could you give us a clear definition of tokenization and how it differs from traditional encryption?
Sure. So tokenization is a security mechanism which replaces sensitive card details, such as the primary account number, the PAN, with a unique non-sensitive token. So this token can be used to initiate transactions without exposing the original card data, reducing the risk of fraud in the event of a breach. The PAN associated with the token is stored securely in the token vault. So traditional encryption scrambles data into an unreadable format and requires decryption to restore the original value. This is useful for transmitting data, but by contrast, when storing data, tokenization removes the sensitive data from the ecosystem entirely by replacing it with a token. So even if a token is intercepted, it holds no value outside of the merchant's environment.
That's a great distinction. So whilst encryption protects data in transit, tokenization ensures that even if a database is breached, the stolen information is useless to fraudsters. So beyond just security, I know merchants are always looking at the bigger picture: compliance, customer experience, operational efficiencies. So from your perspective, what additional benefits does tokenization offer to merchants?
So beyond security, tokenization unlocks a lot of flexibility and cost efficiency for merchants, especially for those that have a multi-PSP or multi-processor strategy. For example, if a merchant chooses to partner with a third-party token vault or a PSP that supports vault forwarding, they unlock an agnostic payment setup, ensuring stored credentials remain portable across any providers that they're working with without the vendor lock-in. It also enables merchants to optimize and improve their performance by dynamically suggesting the best credential for each transaction. So either a network token or a PCI token, which is that underlying PAN, based on the issuer preferences, the issuer performance at authorization, and the cost. And additionally, tokenization can drive that cost efficiency with network tokens, where networks are offering lower interchange, lower scheme fees as an incentive to drive network token adoption. So in summary, tokenization can facilitate that multi-processor strategy, it can improve performance, and it can reduce costs.
And I think just add to that, Adam, from a performance perspective, we've seen authorization rates on first attempt CIT transactions increase by nearly 8% with network tokens. So to your point, issuers trust the token more than the PAN. The PAN is far more easily manipulated by the fraudster, and it's harder to steal a token as it's secured in that secure vault. It's like Fort Knox, right? And from a scheme fee savings, we see, depending on the region or the MCC, tokens can save merchants up to 11 basis points on interchange and 15 basis points on scheme fees. So there's a real benefit from the top line perspective and the bottom line from a tokenization strategy.
And that's a really important point. Optimization is super important to our merchants, and especially now where customers expect frictionless payments. Now, fraud is still a major concern for merchants, even with the secure storage of payment details. So it'd be great if we could talk a little bit about that for a moment, about how tokenization directly impacts fraud prevention and chargebacks.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously Forte started out with a core focus in the fraud management space, and so this is a key consideration for us. PCI tokenization, so swapping out that PAN for a token directly from your PSP or from a third-party vault, it reduces the consequence of a data breach by ensuring that that sensitive card data is never stored by the merchant in its raw form. However, PCI tokenization is only tokenizing the card information between the merchant and the PSP. So when submitting the authorization request, the PAN is still used and potentially exposed. Whereas for network tokens, the PAN remains tokenized all the way through to the card network, and it's the card network that then is responsible for detokenization. Network tokens are also further enhanced through what we call domain controls, which ensures that a token can only be used within a predefined environment, such as a specific merchant, a specific device, or a specific channel. And these domain controls are validated when through the production of a token cryptogram at the point of authorization. So a dynamic and transaction-specific authentication value to ensure that that token is indeed valid and that those domain controls are correct.
I think a couple of points to add there. The encryption point, or the cryptogram point, should I say, is a really important factor of why tokens are so secure. If a fraudster gets access to the cryptogram, it's like having a bookmark but not knowing to which book. It's completely useless. So that adds the extra level of security that all merchants are looking for. The second thing is, outside of the world of just network tokens, there is a whole host of different ways that PANs can be more securely stored, like device tokens. Those are bound to the device that they're creating on. So even if a fraudster somehow gets access to the token on your Apple phone, your Android phone, they can't actually do anything with it without the phone itself. So it makes it much more secure than the card.
So tokenization isn't just about security, it's about reducing friction in payments whilst ensuring fraudsters can't take advantage of the stored credentials. But tokenization doesn't work in isolation. How does it interact with other security metrics like 3D secure measures like 3D secure or biometric authentication? Do merchants need a layered approach?
I think it depends on the type of token, because tokens don't inherently follow that SEA mantra to combine something you know, something you have, and something that you are. So some tokens, like the wallet device PAN, are specific to that device. And it's why you do a 3DS check in the SEA region anyway, when adding a card to Apple Pay, but not when paying. The device is something that you have, and the biometrics when paying is something that you are. So from an SEA perspective, liability generally shifts over to the issuer as if there was a full 3DS check done on that transaction, with some niche cases where it doesn't. But the majority of the time, the merchants are covered by the correct respective ECI indicator. It's not necessarily true for other tokens like the ones from the schemes or PCI or PSP tokens. Functionally, should I say, these tokens are more secure, they have more convenience, and they do increase authorization rates and reduce cost. But they should be used in an SEA-driven approach as well with 3D Secure.
I couldn't agree more. I think 3DS adds that extra layer of authentication by allowing issuers to verify a transaction, often using risk-based analysis, or by requiring the customer to take action through a friction flow, such as a one-time password or a biometric approval. Now, network tokens, particularly the merchant-specific network tokens as opposed to a device token, complement this by providing a cryptographically secure dynamic credential that issuers can trust. And that often enables you to reduce the friction associated with something like 3DS by giving the issuer greater trust in that transaction.
Yeah, that layered security approach really makes a lot of sense, especially, with the increasing fraud sophistication. And we've heard a lot about, how AI is empowering them to perpetrate even more sophisticated fraud. But as payment evolves, so does tokenization technology itself. So I think it would be great now if we could shift gears and talk a little bit about the future. So in your opinion, where is tokenization headed next?
The biggest improvement in effectiveness for me is going to be that move to commerce tokens, so that multiple merchants across a PSP can benefit from one single credential. So traditionally, card on file network tokens are a one-on-one map to a merchant. So one token, one merchant, one PAN. But PSPs have thousands of merchants, and a lot of those merchants will see the same customer over and over. So in theory, we should be able to use the same network token for different merchants. Merchants can already do this with their PSPs, but via a PSP token. as long as that customer has consented via a feature such as our Remember Me solution, that token is stored and can be used across all checkout merchants. The next evolution of that is with network tokens instead of PSP tokens, and we're actually in conversation with Visa and MasterCard on that. There's definitely more innovations, things like identity tokens, embedded finance, but I think commerce tokens is definitely the most advanced invention in terms of efficiency.
Yeah, and I think similarly, when we look at the market and the incentives from different players, when we look at the networks and their focus on network tokenization, we know that MasterCard has announced they want to phase out the raw PAN as a method of authorization by 2030 and move to a 100% network tokenized infrastructure. Now, in the interim, obviously we have a few years until we hit that kind of target timeline. It's worth acknowledging that while network tokens offer security, lower fraud risk, and potentially cost savings, they aren't always the optimal choice for every transaction. So in the meantime, I expect to see a lot of investment from merchants and from the vendors that support those merchants in intelligence solutions to actually understand when is it appropriate to use a network token versus when is it appropriate to continue using the raw PAN itself. Because we know that some issuers, perhaps they're using legacy authorization risk models or haven't invested in ingesting the additional indicators and the additional data that accompanies a network tokenized transaction. Sometimes the performance with those issuers using network tokens can actually be worse than a PAN. And so it really underlines the importance until we get to that 2030 horizon where MasterCard hopes to have 100% network tokenization penetration. Until we get to that point, there's going to be this requirement to have an intelligent approach to the utilization of these credentials.
That's really interesting, and it's great to hear your thoughts on the new technologies and innovations that will be coming to enhance effectiveness until we can do away with the credentials. And also to note, really, from everything, that tokenization isn't just about security anymore, and as you've explained, it's all around enhancing payment continuity and customer experience, reducing friction, and more successful outcomes for merchants and cardholders. So, in your expert opinions, for merchants who are considering implementing tokenization or upgrading their existing solution, what should they be thinking about?
Yeah, so I think for merchants implementing tokenization, there's a few things to consider. So until we reach the stage where it's 100% utilization of network tokens, you also need to have efficient vault management, right? So the PANs that are stored in your token vault, unlike a network token, can expire when the card expires, as we're all familiar with our plastic cards. And the use of account updater services to automatically refresh expired or replaced cards is an incredibly useful tool for merchants. But a common pitfall is updating every credential indiscriminately at the point of expiry. And this can lead to unnecessary costs, storing unused credentials that customers may never use again. So instead, merchants should adopt a purchase intent-driven strategy to account updater. And when looking to implement tokenization, considering what that account updater strategy should be based on their underlying business objectives and also the nature of their business as a merchant is a really important consideration. Additionally, you want to ensure that your vault remains agnostic to ensure that those tokens remain portable across any multi-PSP setup or multi-processor setup that you may be intending to use.
And just stepping back right to the basics, if I were a merchant, I would skip past the PSP token and head straight towards network tokens. And I'm saying this as a PSP. It's good practice nowadays. Network tokens are seen as a hygiene factor for many merchants. It's far more secure than a PSP token as it's tokenized through the transaction chain, meaning issuers value and trust them more. And we know it has high authorization rates. We know it has lower fraud. And we know it has better fees and interchange rates as well. Of course, the schemes are mandating more and more use of network tokens, so it's only heading in one direction of travel. But the first step, I would say, is to skip past the PSP token and head towards networks.
That's truly insightful, and I think it's a crucial takeaway from our conversation that tokenization isn't just security; it's a strategic decision. It's part of an optimization strategy. It affects compliance, customer retention, and overall payment sufficiency. So before we wrap up, let's leave our audience with one final thought. If merchants could take away just one key insight from today, what would it be?
I think from my perspective, it's that tokenization isn't just about security. It's a strategic enabler for better authorization rates, cost efficiency, and payment flexibility. Merchants should focus on smart credential optimization, ensuring you're dynamically using the best token, the best credential, whether that's a network token or a PAN, based on the issuer performance and the cost benefits that they're likely to see.
Just to build on what Adam was saying about the importance of an intelligence layer, you don't need to and you shouldn't use network tokens all the time, at least up until 2030 when the new mandates come in. The best merchants have an intelligence layer that decides the optimal path for the highest chance of success. So no matter where you get your network tokens from, no matter where you store them, make sure that you have the right intelligence engine for full optimization.
Well, I think that's a fantastic way to wrap things up. And a huge thank you to both you, Chirag, Adam, for your insights today. We've explored how tokenization enhances security, reduces chargebacks, and improves payment efficiency, and is a must-have for merchants navigating the evolving payments landscape. To all the listeners, thanks for tuning in. If you found this discussion valuable, be sure to follow Voice of MPE podcast for more deep dives into payment innovations. And until next time, stay secure and stay ahead of the curve.
Thank you for tuning in to the official MPE podcast. If you've enjoyed today's episode, hit the subscribe button to stay ahead of the payments game. For even more content, connect with Merchant Payments Ecosystem on our official social media channels. Subscribe to our newsletter. See you at www.merchantpaymentsecosystem.com.